We also had a viewer on Monday ask, what do you make of Novocure's earnings? The ticker there is NVCR. And I personally would broaden that question somewhat. Instead of just looking at the earnings in Q2, I think I would expand that question to, what do you think investors should watch with Novocure going forward based on what we saw in the company's Q2 update? And so if Brian rejoins us, he can chime in here. But it did seem that investors were a little disappointed with Novocure's Q2 results. But I really think we should all be looking at the long term with not just this company, but with any company that we follow. For those who aren't familiar with Novocure, what the company does, it's developed devices that produce electric fields, and it calls them tumor treating fields. Hey, Brian, you back with us?
I'm back. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. So Brian, we're talking about Novocure and what investors should be looking forward to with this company, beyond just the earnings update. And I'd already started to talk about what Novocure does with its tumor treating fields. So maybe you can pick up there with, what these tumor treating fields do, and then what investors really should be looking at with Novocure going forward.
Yeah, so the idea here is the fields can disrupt microtubules, and those microtubules are responsible for cellular division. They pull the duplicated chromosomes into the two daughter cells. And so if you don't get cell division, then you can't get tumor growth. And so that's how they inhibit the growth of the tumors. They've already shown that the technology works in brain cancer and mesothelioma. So with that background out of the way, the company has quite a few readouts in the years to come, and that should be really what investors are mostly focused on, rather than being focused on necessarily the most recent quarter. This quarter, they're expecting an interim readout for the device to treat ovarian cancer. It might not be successful at the interim readout, but they have another opportunity when the full readout comes out in 2023. And then next year, they're going to have 4 different readouts: a phase 2 in gastric cancer, interim results from a phase 3 in pancreatic cancer, phase 2 of a study of a high intensity arrays, so basically stronger tumor treating fields in recurrent glioblastoma, which is brain cancer. And then they have final data for the phase 3 in lung cancer. This study has sort of an interesting history because the data monitoring committee that's responsible for looking at the results of the study as it goes along, took an interim look at the results and said, basically, you need to make this clinical trial shorter with fewer number of patients, because the data we're seeing says it'll work with those few patients in that short of a time, and it would be unethical to run the clinical trial for longer with more patients. So reading between the lines, and these are pretty big lines to read through, it seems likely that the device is going to help patients with lung cancer based on the interim data that the independent data monitoring committee has been looking at.